All right, so we are back taking another look at relative clauses, doing a deeper dive. And remember, relative clauses are clauses that tell us more about a noun. And the relative clauses begin with a relative pronoun. Okay, remember, the relative clauses begin with a relative pronoun. So remember your who's, which's, and that's. And they are giving us information related to a noun. So we are often taught that we are supposed to insert a comma before who's, which's, or that's, and that's not always true. So we are going to figure out when to do that right now. Restrictive clauses. Restrictive clauses restrict focus to one of multiple. One of multiple. I'll show you what I mean in just a bit. Or we can think of it as giving more information to help identify one of multiple. So these are doing the same thing. We're just saying it differently. We're restricting focus to one of multiple, or we are given more information to help us identify one of multiple. There are no commas or hyphens with restrictive clauses. Okay? And I'll explain why in a minute. And the restrictive clause is not optional. And this lack of optionality is related to these two items here. The restrictive clause is necessary because it's giving us more information to help us identify more one of multiple. Think about the times when somebody looks at you and says, I want that one. You're like, what? Which one? That one, right? That replaces something. That is, the word that is a pronoun. It's replacing something. In your mind, you are thinking, which that? Which one? Give me something with which to work, right? Right? I don't understand. I know in common parlance we say, give me something to work with. So here are some examples. Daquan solves the problems that baffle everyone else. Daquan solves the problems that baffle everyone else. Okay? So where is our relative clause? And if you haven't already, go on and pause and take some notes. I'm just saying. All right. Okay? We have our clause, that, baffle, pronoun. We have a noun phrase. Baffle is a verb. That, so we have a clause, right? And this is a relative pronoun, right? We have a who, which, or that. This is definitely a that. That baffle everyone else. This piece of information gives us an idea of exactly what kinds of problems Daquan solves. It doesn't look like he solves all the problems. No. The lack of the comma makes clear that he solves a particular kind of problem. He solves a particular kind of problem. Problems that baffle everyone else. This is necessary. We need to understand this, okay? So we don't have a comma, right? It's not optional because, again, this is telling us what kinds of problems Daquan solves. So we need this information to understand what problems he solves. It restricts the focus to one of multiple. So the multiple would be different kinds of problems, okay? But we're being restricted to one type of problem. And that one type of problem is the type of problem that gets on everybody else's nerves. Or these problems, they could be different types of problems. The commonality is that they baffle everyone else. This is Daquan's specialty. Solving the problems that just go over other people's heads, all right? Or we can think of it as being given more information to help identify one of multiple. So it's sort of saying the same thing, okay? Does Daquan solve all the problems in this sentence? No, we're being told about a specific subset of problems. Which are those? Did you say the problems that baffle everyone else? I hope you did. All right. So we have our that. Remember your who's, which's, and that's, followed by a verb. Okay? 2. Let's look at this variation. Daquan solves the problems which baffle everyone else. And if you're thinking it's the same thing, it just changed one word, you're exactly right. I did. That's exactly what I did. So instead of that, we have which. And both are acceptable. Okay? Notice again, there's no comma. We have no commas or hyphens. All right? It's not separated, so it's not just supplementary. It's not an aside. This is essential to understanding, again, what kinds of problems Daquan solves. All right, so we have our relative pronoun. This is a noun phrase. We have our verb. And then we have this information, this object. All right, Daquan solves the problems. What problems? The problems that baffle everyone else. So we have our, remember, relative pronouns. You want to think whose, whiches, and that's, followed by a verb at the very least. Okay? So, you may have noticed there's no who on the board yet. So let's think of an example including a who. You pause the camera, think of an example that you can write down, and then unpause. And I'll show you what I come up with. In the meantime, I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to click pause and write your sentence and then come back. All right. So what did you get? Let me show you what I have. Daquan chills with people who study effectively. Do you see a who, which, or that? We have a who, a relative pronoun, our noun phrase. Study is our verb. And we have some adverbial information, or we have an adverb. This tells us how they study. They study effectively. Daquan chills with people who study effectively. So do you see how this works? You have your who's, which's, and that's. We have no commas or hyphens, right? We are given information that helps restrict focus to one of multiple, right? So Daquan doesn't chill with everyone. He chills with a certain kind of people. Who are these people? These are people who study effectively, right? Not people who study ineffectively, people who study effectively. Give more information to help identify one of multiple, right? So this is the information that identifies the one type of people out of multiple type of people. You have those who study effectively and those who don't study effectively, right? Multiple, more than one. He's with the people who study effectively, and the information is not optional. We need this information to understand with whom Daquan chills, okay? All right, so if you are supposed to do homework, go on and do that. If you're not, all the best. Now, if you need to figure out when to use the comma or exactly what that comma is telling us, then I'll see you in the next lesson. All right, bye-bye.